Today on the Rise Differently podcast, I am talking to Bianca Alba, a public health leader who spent 15 years in federal service, got let go last year, and chose herself instead. She's now the founder of This Latina Travels, helping women travel the world, embrace reinvention, and build lives rooted in purpose. In this episode, we will talk about grief, permission to rest, travel, what it means to build something new, and why success without alignment can feel empty. If you're quietly exhausted and ready for something different, this episode is for you. Hola, hola a todos, and welcome back to the Rise Differently podcast. I'm your host, Iris Canela, and I'm so excited because this is our first guest for the 2026 year. And I'm so happy to have you here, Bianca. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing a part of your story that I know is going to be so valuable to so many women out there right now. And usually when we start the podcast, I start off with this question, which is, how are you rising differently in this current season of your life?
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me here. It's so beautiful just to share this space with you and your community. And to answer your question, at this moment of my life, I am rising to being the best potential badass woman that I am, but also to be in peace. I feel like just everything going on in this world. I've learned that I am so grateful for life and I'm so thankful for having community, for having people who love me. But just to be in peace is just a gift that I will never I'll never regret. Like, I'm just so happy that my life right now is at peace at the best way possible.
Qué rico, as you said that, because I think many of us, we kind of think about peace later down the road when we are earning it or if it's like a privilege. But for you to show us and be the witness to all of that of what peace means in your life is going to be so contagious in the best way possible for us all to have, because I think a lot of us, we sometimes push that back. So I love that you're experiencing all of that and reminding us of how important peace is even for our own lives.
Yes.
So with that even being said, because amiga, I know that you have built such a beautiful brand, which you're wearing it, by the way, and rocking it as you should be, okay?
Yes.
Before we talk about your brand, This Latina Travels, I want you to take
Mhm.
us back a little bit about the moment that actually allowed you to realize that you were no longer in the path that you needed to be in anymore, and what that meant for you in that moment and what that trajectory looked like forward.
Yes. Oh, so there's a lot of moments, and I think that's also the beautiful thing, right? Because I feel like we are in different phases of our life and always learning and always growing. The person that I am today is not the person that I was 10, 5, 15 years ago. But I think a big key element for me, as simple as it was starting college. I'm the first in my family to go to college. I'm the first, immigrant in literally the lineage of like whatever, is to go to college. As the oldest, I'm the oldest of four women. I wanted to get out of the house. I wanted to get out so bad because unfortunately, like the relationship my mother and I had when we were young was just really heavy and toxic in the sense that, she was learning. She was learning how to be a mom. I don't have anything or I don't hold anything against her because it was literally a child raising a child. She was 17 years old when she moved to this country with me at 6 months, right? Like not knowing a language, not knowing anybody but my father. And then growing up in a place where you don't even know the language, you don't have family, like I can't even imagine. We can't even leave our sides without our phones nowadays. Like I can't imagine riding a plane and not being able to call anybody or let anybody know via text, like, hey, I'm on my way. So it's like things like that that I reflect that my upbringing was what it was for a reason. But I also know like, hey, like I need to get help. I need to get therapy because there was a lot of things that were done that were not okay. But the reason why I share that is because for me, college was like that escape. It was like I went to college literally 5 minutes, 10 minutes down the street from my mom's house, but I lived on campus because I made it like a point where I was like, if I'm going to college, I'm going to go and I'm going to live wherever I get into. And I ended up getting a full ride to George Mason University. So I got a full ride scholarship because I was a really studious hard worker in high school. Then college came and I was like, oh my gosh, this is hard. Nobody warns you, especially as a first gen, that you need to, not only do go to class on your own and do your work and stuff, but also just survive. Like, you're working, you're trying to like adjust into this life that again, nobody taught you. You're the first one. So it's like, all right, like finding like what I want to be involved with, what I don't want to be involved with, my social life, my love life, like all this stuff to juggle. And so I feel like that stage really set the tone for who I am because it was through that chapter that I learned a lot about myself, that I did things also that I'm not, too proud of, just like we all in our early 20s did all this wild stuff.
Yeah.
But it also allowed me to grow. It allowed me to grow to the woman that I am today. And this is the woman that I'm so proud of. And so because of all those moments and because of, pushing myself, getting into those rooms, building, those communities, I am where I am today. And I'm so proud. But it was definitely an interesting road to get to where I'm at. And so, 10, 15 years later, I ended up, getting my master's in public health again. So going back to school and getting my master's, being part of the 4% of Latinas with a higher degree, and started my government career. So I went into the public health career as a minimum like GS5, which is like the bottom of the barrel, because this was my only way into the government. Like, this was my only way into this career. And so even then, like, we can go into deeper of the navigations of my job setting, because that also was a different purpose in my life. Like, I feel like that really taught me to respect myself, but also set boundaries and speak up for myself. It wasn't until I started my career that I learned, wow, like, we really don't get paid enough. We get literally exploited for not only just work, but being a woman. Don't have kids. I wasn't married at the time. It was like, Bianca could work the holidays. Bianca can do this. And it wasn't until I had to change some jobs that I was like, no, enough is enough. I'm going to do this for me. And I'm going to put boundaries. So we can definitely talk more about that. But yeah, so to answer your question in a nutshell, there's so many stages, but I would definitely say, like, when I first started college, which then my public health career, and then of course now that I'm a full-time entrepreneur running my business.
Girl, I want to honor each part of your story, the seasons, the versions of Bianca that needed to get to this point. Also acknowledging the weight of being the eldest
Mm.
daughter. I can definitely resonate with that. And I know a lot of the listeners here can too. And also being the first, right, to do so many things, to be able to learn how to advocate for yourself, to set the boundaries, those like invisible pressures that sometimes in the moment we don't see, the
Yeah.
need to feel be responsible. And yes, we all made our choices and some were
Yeah.
great and some were like, those are the stories that we tell now with laughter.
Yeah.
But, like you mentioned already, that's such a great way for us to really understand who you were before and who you have become currently because of those different stages that you navigated, those
Mm.
experiences, even with your mom, which I know a lot of us can also resonate to with one of our parents where we felt the
Yeah.
same way. So I'm so grateful that you actually mentioned that. And I know that you also mentioned a little bit more about the other pressures of being able to make decisions for yourself that were a little bit different and chasing the desire versus the obligation. Because you could have
Mm.
stayed, you could have forced yourself to make it work, but you actually pivoted and you've embraced the pivoting. So, can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I know you were in public health for 15 plus years and
Mhm.
you've done so much community impact within that too, but some could even say like, pero Bianca, ¿por qué no te quedaste? Like, te hubieras quedado, like,
Yeah.
push through and everything. Those things are also very hard to walk away from because there's identity crisis that sometimes even
Mm.
happens. So, how did you honor that chapter of your life while also giving yourself permission to evolve into something completely new, especially building your brand and becoming a full-time entrepreneur?
Yes. So I think the biggest thing is realizing that my career doesn't equal my success. Like, that was a big thing. And it's still something that I'm processing. So I want everyone to know, like, there are still days where I grieve. So background, if anybody doesn't know my story, I got let go of my federal career in public health last year with all the reduction in forces, the rifts that are going on within our government. And so I was the only one in my division that was let go because I'm based here in Puerto Rico. So not only was it like a big slap in the face, but it's like, wow, like, I'm really alone. I'm doing this by myself because no one else on my team was let go. But I do believe And, everything happens for a reason, so there are days that I'm like cussing everyone out. And then there's some days where I'm like at peace because finally, and I've said this and I believe it 100% for the first time in my life, I am choosing me. Like, I'm doing me. Like, I get to be my own boss. I get to write my own evaluations, my own plan. And that just feels so liberating in the best way possible. And so I just think like that moment, that pivot was as much as it was a really hard chapter in my life. I also realized like, no, like I'm going to do this and I'm going to choose myself. But, and to answer your question, like public health will always be part of me. Like, I will never let that go because one, I really enjoyed like what I studied, like, and I was with it, like not only just government, but like statewide, nonprofit wise for more than 15 years. So it'll always be a part of me. At this time right now, I decided not to get into another public health job because realistically, our field is being demolished by this federal government, like completely. I mean, I don't have like people who are listening here probably see eye to eye too, so I don't have to defend myself or anything, but it's just really sad that people who are leading these forces because they don't see what we see. And this is the reason why I wanted to be in these leadership positions because they needed more people who look like us to make these decisions. Idiots that are currently running it right now are not. But I decided for my own mental health, for my own sanity, that I'm going to focus on something completely different that brings me joy, that brings me peace, and that brings me money too at the end of the day because, we need to do things that bring us all that because we need to survive. Like we still need to, eat at the end of the day. But I knew that this isn't going to be an end all be all. Like, and I can incorporate public health into, my practices some way, somehow. But for now, like I decided to put a pause, at least with a public health like role within the federal government because I just don't want to be part of that. And I have the privilege to, have a savings fund. I have a privilege to have a supportive partner, a privilege to have a community that believes in me. And those are also items that I hope that everybody that's listening has. And if they don't, please know that you can start from scratch. Oh, I started from scratch, This Latina Travels. I'm sure you started your community also, from the beginnings. Like it doesn't happen overnight, but it can happen. And I encourage everybody else that's listening to build that emergency fund, that FU fund, that solution fund, whatever you want to call it, because we do need to be on top of our finances. And whether it's just a little bit savings every month, like we need to do that for just us, for our being. Mhm.
I really appreciate all of those points that you covered because the pivot is very hard, especially for high achieving women who are so ambitious, who have planned out their life, who have been like, pero this was supposed to be the plan. This was supposed to be life. And as you mentioned too, life can be very uncertain sometimes because of political climates or different shifts that are happening around us
Mhm.
every single day, right? And so those unpredictable moments can also alter a lot of us because then when we're let
Mhm.
go of something that we've worked so hard for, right? There's so much grief that can come in that. And I think you definitely pointed that out while also acknowledging that there was something there that needed to change and shift. And from what it sounds like too, you're giving the listeners an opportunity to also give themselves the permission to
Mhm.
change the values because it sounds like for you, you set clear like boundaries, but in the sense of like, I have values now. I want a different
Yeah.
direction now. I'm changing my mind. The dream isn't this anymore, but it's okay
Yeah.
to allow myself to move in a different way. And I think so many of us, that can be hard. So was
Mhm.
there any tips in those moments where, because again, for so many of us, because we are high achievers, probably first
Mhm.
generation, eldest daughters, and we have a lot of people looking at us. We have a lot of people who are relying on us to be the great example. And that can really tap into like the survival mode of like, but I gotta have it right. Like, I want
Yeah.
to make it financially. I want to live a life without having to stop it. So, like, how did you allow yourself to process those emotions of the pivot while embracing it, pero also acknowledging that grief and moving through the survival mode so you can get to that clarity point of where you got to? Because that
Mhm.
shift is everything. So,
Yeah.
what would you tell us? What helped you in that moment?
I think the first thing is just giving myself permission. And as simple as that sounds, it also is the hardest thing ever. But giving myself permission to grieve, giving myself permission to rest, giving myself my permission to get out of this survival mode. Like yeah, survival mode for the longest time protected me, but it never defined like who I was. And I think learning that slowly but surely, and it wasn't like, that happened like all last year. No, this has been like something that I've also in my mind have planned, I think, because knowing the type of planner, the type of being that I am, I was like, always thinking worst case scenario, right? But I feel like as women, we should listen to ourselves first off, but also identify like what are our values? Like what brings you joy? Because also what brings me joy could be different from brings you joy. But for me personally, like at this time, like I was like, all right, I want time to rest. Like I want time to travel even more, to be in these rooms. And so like specifically like this year, I decided that I'm gonna go to all these conferences because I'm gonna be in these rooms so I can be in these rooms or mentioned in these rooms without even being here the following year. So it's like kind of auditing your life in a sense. So put those values into paper. Everybody's different, right? But I love to write everything. I have a planner. I'm old school. I have my calendar and my phone notes. Oh my God, my notes. Like my husband sees them and he's like, you are crazy. I don't know how you are, but put things into action, but also like see them. Like, so if you're a visual person like I am, write them down, reflect, like give yourself like that time. And then I would also say, put yourself in community. It is so important. We can't do life alone. And I know it's easier said than done because everyone's always like, oh, like, well, because you have so many sisters or because I'm part of a sorority. But I'm like, no, like, there's so many outlets nowadays, like Facebook groups, whether you want to be in podcasting, there's even Latinas in podcasting group. There's just so many other ways. I just think, honestly, sometimes we're like our own barrier and we don't just put ourselves out there. So those are the things I would say. I was like, just like first, give yourself permission to make sure you audit your life, write down those values and then put yourself in community, put those up in those rooms that may feel awkward at first, but you deserve to be in those rooms. So create that community.
Oh, that was like gems dropped back to back to back. And so I know that that's going to serve so many people because at the end of the day, I also too remember when it was a point in time that I needed to audit my life, which is like being able to set those values again and really reflect and see if those even align with you moving forward. And giving yourself permission. I think that one really hit home for me because it's like the permission to feel everything, the grief, the excitement for the future, all of those things. And I think so many of us, because we're in such a hurry or the urgency comes through where we're trying to catch up to the next best
Mhm.
thing. But even just when you said giving ourselves permission to rest, especially when we're pivoting from something so big that it requires such a big transition for us to process, dude, like that's huge. And so to hear you say that out loud, that I know for me, it reminded me of when I also pivoted and I was like, man, you're right. Like I had to cry. I had to give myself permission to feel todo, to really like release it as we call it here in my community, like release it and just like let yourself like let it go to feel it and
Mhm.
to heal it. And at the end of the day, too, it's about that releasing gives you the clarity to see like what you really want for the next chapter
Mhm.
of your life. And so I appreciate you that you said all of that. And so I know that my community, my clients, all of the people that tune in are going to be like, yes, girl, we resonate porque aquí andamos haciendo lo mismo. And so thank you for sharing all of that, Bianca. And because of that pivot, though, and because of all that, the grief, the transitions, all of the stuff that you felt, and even just like the past version of you, like then something beautiful was birthed. And this is where I really want to talk about like your travel transformation because you
Yeah.
rep it, it's your brand. And so
Yeah.
for someone that has never thought about traveling, because we also want to know like what even got you to even start, your brand and to allow other people to see the transformation that can come from travel and probably how it even reinvented you in a way. So can you tell us a little bit about your entire beautiful brand and how it even got birthed in the first place?
Yes, thank you so much for that. So my brand is called This Latina Travels, and it wasn't just born yesterday. It actually started as a podcast back in 2021 when I think the whole world started a podcast. It was right after, like the year right after the pandemic. So the pandemic started in 2020. I started my podcast in 2021. So I started it because I used to work for CDC, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So I was literally in the forefront of everything happening with the pandemic of COVID. And when I tell you literally, I was at the airport at JFK. I was in the poultry factories in Salisbury, Maryland. I was in Ponce, Puerto Rico doing on-site testing everywhere. When I tell you I was working 80, 90-hour weeks, I really was. And there was a point where money didn't really matter anymore because I wasn't okay here in my mind. And I needed to do something that was not COVID related. So I started a podcast thinking of it as an outlet. Had one of my sorority sisters, I outsourced, and I was like, "You want to edit this? Because I don't have the time, but I want to tell my story." Like, little did I know that so many women from all over the world would listen and would tell me, like, "Wow, like I didn't know you could travel there," or "Wow, like that is somewhere where I've been dying to go to." And it hit, like it hit. I was like, "Oh my God, people are actually listening." Like to me, it was like if one person listens, that would be great, but it was like hundreds of people. So I didn't know what it would have become. And I'm sharing that because I think that's also something, especially we do as Latina women, like we're afraid to start something because we don't know what what's going to come about it. So start it small. And I did. I started it small with not even headphones or anything. It was just a dinky dink mic and it blew up from there. But my love for travel has always been there. But because I grew up low income, because, we were just surviving, we didn't travel much. I didn't get to go to Bolivia for the first time because I was born there, but I was brought to this country when I was 6 months. So I was 11. So that's 11 years after my mom got here to go back to her country, which is so crazy. Because imagine she left her siblings when they were like teenagers, kids, and she goes back and they're all full blown adults. My grandparents are older. So it was a eye-opening trip that I didn't know was eye-opening because I was only 11. Forward, college came around and I started traveling a lot because of my sorority. So we used to go up and down the East Coast to different campuses. And that's what really sparked my love, to be honest, because I was like, oh, this is cool. Like I went to school in Virginia, but schools in New York are completely different than schools in Charlotte, North Carolina, or even Miami, Florida. When I was like in Florida, I was like, oh my gosh, I would have not studied if I went to school in Florida. So like it opened my eyes also to see how different each college campus was. But my real love, I think, for travel started when I graduated from undergrad. My only regret was I did not study abroad. And I stayed in contact though with the program, and it was called Pro World. And right after I graduated, they had an opportunity because they just had opened a program in Cape Town, South Africa. And it was a contest. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to apply and shoot my shot. So this is your message. Shoot your shot because you just never know. And I won. And so they flew me to Cape Town, South Africa. I did their 2-week immersion program for free. I only paid the taxes. But again, this is me getting right out of college, never had gone anywhere besides, up and down the East Coast with people that I knew or Bolivia, but this was my first trip. And that really opened my eyes to travel because I got to see also the living like circumstances of somebody who grew up also low income and then also seeing the really high end parts of Cape Town. And I knew like from there on, like I was like, I'm going to travel the world. And I've been really grateful and very lucky to say that I've been to 6 out of the 7 continents. I'm not a millionaire yet. So if I can travel, you can too. And most of these travels, I did them solo. So this is way before I met my husband. So you don't need a man, you don't need a partner. Some of the best travels for me have been solo and just so beautiful. And so that's what I wanted to showcase. That's what I wanted people to learn in this podcast. And then, years go on and I was like, you know what? I'm going to build this as a brand. And so that's how the logo came about. I hired a brand designer, a website designer who happens to be both. And me and her like are very aligned with our visions and missions. So outsource people who look like you, who have that same, mentality. Trust me, they're out there. We're powerful Latinas all over. So if I don't know somebody, I'm sure Iris knows somebody. Like we all, like that's the beauty of community. And from there on, like I started going to travel conferences and the opportunities are endless. So I'm just continuing, growing this Latina Travels not only as a storytelling brand, but now I'm even partnering with universities and colleges to work on their alternative spring break programs to here to Puerto Rico because I reside here in Puerto Rico, and I was able to get Penn State for the second year in a row, and this contract has been amazing. Like, it's a blessing. I always believe when one door closes, another one opens, and I I can sense it when I tell you, like, this is just the beginning. And so, yeah, so that's literally how this Latina travel started. That's the journey. And, here we are.
Oh my gosh. Okay, one, it's like the journey has been beautiful. I got chills as you said that. And that part of how one door closes and there's many more that open. And being able to just take our shot. Porque uno nunca sabe. No one ever knows really what's on the other side. And that sometimes in the moment when we think like, man, we work so hard for a career, then we get let go, or maybe we decide to pivot and it seems very uncertain. You mentioned something earlier too that was so key about that, which was like it takes time. Like it wasn't this big
Hmm.
thing at first. And the fact that you kept going and to where you're at today, to then all the beautiful visions of what you have in the future, how your personal story from growing low income, even with being the eldest, and travel was always there, and even with everything with your career, it all translates over to your beautiful brand and the beauty of culture and like honoring where you come from and getting to know different places and even giving the women out here permission, porque hay muchas de nosotras that were like, well, can I really travel by myself? Should I do this with a man and whatever not? So you empowering us too to just be like, you could do it all. Go single, ahorita, and go with your partner, do whatever. But just like that is so empowering because I know so many of us, even as high achievers, nos da miedo a bit. But
Yeah.
hearing all of that and how you're so connected to your roots, and if there's something that you want to chime in on that, because I know that with your brand, This Latina Travels, like I know that there's something beautiful and personal there, and you wanna dive deeper about that and why cultura is so important to you?
Yes, of course. I mean, I think being Latina is one of my poderes, like how I say it, because we just embody so much culture. Like, I really do believe in no matter what country you're from, like, we have so, like, much history. So for me, being Latina means everything. I l- and when I travel, I take that identity with me. Like, then I think that's why I don't call myself a content creator. Like, I'm a storyteller. Like, I want, to tell those stories that sometimes are never told. And I'll give you like
Mhm.
an example. I went to Peru last year and my heart like broke at some of these places knowing like the history of the erased like, populations, the cemeteries that are there that don't look like cemeteries, but we know people have been murdered and killed there. But knowing the history thanks to these guides, it's just a very like I want like, these places so much that the least that I can do is like post about it or make a story or something. So for me, like, when I travel somewhere, like I take all that with me. I take, not only the storytelling aspect, but how can I honor this community? And this is everywhere, like not just in Latin America, but in all different countries, and also just be respectful, right? We have to be mindful of when we travel places. And that was something also that I had to learn, because I didn't know. Like, I never went anywhere when I was young. So when I remember I traveled to Egypt a couple years ago, I did so much research. I became like best friends with my tour guide, who till this day, she's amazing. Shout out to them all. But I would literally send her like all my outfits, all like, because I just wanted to be so respectful to a culture that I'm not used to. And I didn't want to I'm like, I'm already a 5'5" Latina, curvy, with, beautiful, like, like, but like just self. And I was like, I don't want to stand out more. I was like,
Yes.
I'm not gonna wear what I wear here in Puerto Rico to Egypt. So I was like, so something as that, just being mindful, and so you can be proud of your cultura. You can, rock your flag, rock our music. But when you do travel, that's just little things that you just have to take in consideration of just the different cultures and the different countries do different things, and just remind yourself that when you do go somewhere, you're a visitor. And I think that's a big thing too that I try to like really incorporate in all my content and all my blogs and see how we can support local. So my biggest thing is when I travel is like I don't want to do what everybody's doing, or if everybody's doing that thing, for example, like I want to hire like the person who is from there, who will give me the actual history, because that's also very important. Like you want to put your money into the hands of locals. So I would also, strongly encourage like listeners when they're traveling to places, like do your research. It doesn't take that long to find actual companies that are hiring people from there, and put your money where, can fruition at the end of the day.
And that's such a great reminder that we are visitors no matter where we travel, and to respect the land, respect the people, and contribute in a positive way by giving back to the community that you're visiting. That is huge. And I know you stand by that with your brand. So for those of you who are not following Bianca, I'm just telling you right now, everything's going to be in the show notes. So follow that, because literally everything that she's saying right now, I can say as someone who has been following her, seeing her content, that is everything that she stands for. And I'm all about integrity, and I know you are too. So it's like
Yes.
that is the world. And I know that we need more people like that who can continue to show us what's out in the world, the beauty, but also educate us, and also like be able to help us how to be better contributors to our society, our communities. So that way we can help each other out. So that was so beautifully said. So thank you for that, amiga. And I feel like we could be here all freaking day. It was so good. And thank you so much for sharing your story. And I want to ask you this final like podcast question before we go into our
Mhm.
rapid fires.
Okay.
Pero for all the women that are listening right now who are high achieving on paper but are quietly exhausted, they're quietly questioning themselves, where they're at in their life, they want something different. What's the one thing that you wish someone had told you earlier that you wanted to
Mm,
hear today?
that would be success without alignment can feel empty. So do something that fills your cup. As simple as that. I wish someone would have told me that when I first started my public health career, because for the longest time, for me, success was getting that full-time job, was getting that full payment with benefits and all, healthcare, all this stuff. But for the longest time, what I thought was happiness, or what my values were really getting diminished for a long time. So although successfully on paper, I had the job, I had the titles, I had, the retirement fund, I was just not happy. And that's just not the life you want to live. You want to live fully in alignment, living in your purpose, and living in those values that we mentioned before.
Oh, girl. I felt that. I'm over here like, yo
Mhm.
también. I feel that too. I'm not gonna lie, you almost made me tear up there. So many of us, we feel that, especially in the state of the world that we're in. But thank you for showing us what is possible. Thank you for showing us, for those of us who are building something, to keep going, and for us to just continue to just live fully, to be alive in this moment, and to just go after it. Thank you so much for that. Oh, seriously, I want to cry with you right there. But now we're gonna go with rapid fires.
Okay.
I want you to be ready, girl, because I want you to don't
All
overthink this one,
right.
okay? So I was like, do not
Okay.
overthink. Let the soul speak on this one.
All right.
Cafecito or té?
Oh, cafecito.
Oh, girl, yes, we on the same.
Yes. Yes. Cafecito, hands down.
Yes,
I live in Puerto Rico. Like, I have no choice.
yes, no, it's all good, girl. I'm with you on that one.
Yes.
And then next one is, what's one song that makes you feel unstoppable?
Ooh. Anything with Selena, but my go-to is, of course, Beady Beady Bam Bam.
That one too. That one's a good one. And last but
Mhm.
not least, if your future self sent you a message right now, what would she say?
Burnout is not a badge of honor, sis. Yes. Yeah.
Girl, yes, preach. Oh my gosh, you have been preaching this whole time. You've
Yes.
been giving me goosebumps,
Yes.
all the things.
Yes.
That was so good. You need to have that into a sticker. Just saying.
Yes,
Just
no,
saying.
I need it. It's funny because I do have like some sticky notes here. That was not it, but I keep thinking of burnout because someone just recently asked me, like, "You're doing so much," and I was like, "Yeah, but I'm not burning out. But
Oh,
it's not a badge of honor." So yeah,
yes. Oh,
yeah,
that is such a good distinguisher. Oh my gosh, we
yeah.
need to bring you back for part two for that one. That is so good. Oh, amiga, this was a really wholesome, healing conversation. I just want to thank you so much. And at the end, I usually do a cheers, and I want to honor you for everything that you've gone
Mhm,
through
mhm.
in your life, honoring that past version of Bianca, this current one, and the future one that's about to like burst out with so much more light. So I'm cheering to you, and may your business continue to grow and prosper, and still continue to impact so many other community members that you've already impacted so much, and for more to come. So cheers to you.
Yeah, so cheers, and cheers to you too for building this community, for having this space, and for being the badass that you are, for real.
Thank you
Salud!
so much.
Now we
Salud.
gotta
Yeah, girl. Salud.
now we
Salud.
gotta drink.
Yes.
Mm. This is water, by the way, but I
It's
love me my
okay.
water.
It's all good. Water, the cafe, we welcome it all, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor. And for those of you who are here, I hope that this message really hit not just like the mindset, the heart, but the soul. So that way you are encouraged to see what's still possible for you too, because Bianca is your mirror. She is showing you what is still out there for you to keep going, take your shots, and just remember that success isn't always painted in the way that the world sees it. Success is based on how you define it. So everything is going to be on our show notes, amigas. Please go ahead and follow Bianca. She has an amazing couple of things. And before we close it off, did you want to share about special things that you have coming up, or to just connect with you in your world?
Yeah, so please join me. Come connect with me at This Latina Travels on all major platforms. But my website is thislatinatravels.com, where I send a monthly newsletter with all the updates. But the big project that's coming up, I'm just going to be in all these different rooms. I'm really excited. I'm heading to Chattanooga, Tennessee. In about a week and a half. I've never been to Chattanooga, and I'm going for WITS, which is the Women in Travel Summit. So I hopefully one day will speak there. So that's the reason why I'm also going, because I want to be on that stage. But I'm looking forward to just making these authentic connections and just continuing to grow. But yes, please follow me at This Latina Travels, and let's stay connected and let's travel the world.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And it's going to happen, amiga. It's going to happen. It's already here and it's already happening. And so, mujeres, go ahead and follow Bianca, and just remember that you are allowed to move differently. And we'll see you in the next episode. Adios, everybody.